Bengals trade for Joe Flacco. We'll talk about this coming up next on the Wincinnati podcast. Coming up on the Wincinnati podcast.
Hello, world. Wincinnati. You guys are the Yoshi creators, bro.
It's a new beginning. You know what that means, right?
But I know this, the whole NFL is scared of the Bengals.
Welcome to the Wincinnati podcast. I'm Ace. He is Zim here live as we're recording this on Wednesday, October 8th, 8 p.m. A lot of stuff has happened since the last time that you heard from Zim, heard from myself. Zim, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. I just want to point out on that intro, Trey Hendrickson is on there when people were telling. Remember when our boy put this together, and I think you might have said this first, and somebody else said this too. They're like, "Are you sure Trey Hendrickson's gonna be here?" And look at Trey Hendrickson getting sacks and doing his thing. I just want to say, I think that was dope that we took a leap of faith to have him on the intro, and he's still a Bengal. So just something
for sure. Well, the Bengals took a leap of faith and traded for a new quarterback. We knew that it needed to happen, right? We kind of have been clamoring for weeks, and the Bengals shocked everybody and made a trade. And the trade was an individual trade, the first trade that they've made within the division with the Cleveland Browns of all people, which is shocking as well because we know the history with Mike Brown and the Browns and them taking the team from them. So you would have thought that the last team that the Bengals would have made a trade with in the division would have been the Browns. They make a trade, and then it's for Joe Flacco, right? So the Bengals send a 5th-round pick in exchange for the Lions' 6th-round pick and Joe Flacco to Cleveland. They get Joe Flacco. And as this kind of went on, I know initially I was like, man, why not Jameis? Why not Russell Wilson? But we kind of talked about that reasoning a few shows ago, right? Like you kind of brought up, hey, how are you going to get somebody in and get them to learn this system and be able to pick it up and get in? Like they're not going to start right away. And that was one of the determining factors in getting a guy like Joe Flacco, because when you get someone like him who's a veteran, who's been traded before, who's had to come in, learn a system on a quick, short turnaround that he's done with Cleveland, done with other teams before, that's why they went Joe Flacco. They get somebody that's familiar within the division. They get a veteran quarterback. They talk about his arm today, the power that he's able to use with it, because they felt like Jake Browning didn't have the arm strength that they needed. They felt like Flacco had that. And the biggest part of this story for me, I know a lot of people were just like, Joe Flacco, oh my God, Cleveland. The thing that stuck out the most to me was Ian Rappaport reporting that, hey, the plan is for him to be the quarterback until Joe Burrow returns. There were a lot of people out there online saying, oh, the Bengals are just saying that. They're not confirming whether Joe is going to return. It hadn't been confirmed, I think, past the surgery. And this is now them saying, hey, Joe Burrow is also expected to return, is another part of this, is another piece of this. And I've heard other podcasts, people are saying, like, Joe Burrow is working hard to return as it stands right now. This isn't a smoke screen. This isn't, I know people are trying to say on Twitter, I think he's done. I think it's this and that. From what we're hearing from people that are in the building around Joe Burrow is working his butt off to get back. This is a situation where you get a stopgap veteran quarterback who's been there that can keep you afloat, because the Bengals are still 2-3. They currently sit 8th in the AFC. They are right outside of the playoffs as it stands right now. So it makes a lot of sense from that standpoint that this is a guy that you're bringing in that can act as that stopgap, get you to 500, maybe a game over 500, maybe a game under 500, but can give this back to Joe. And I'm hearing some people now, I've heard anything from late November to mid-November. I'm hearing mid-November now from people speculating, where a lot of the early reports were, oh, it's December. There's no way that he's coming back until December. Now, I'm not going to say that those reports are accurate, but this is the first time that I'm starting to hear reputable people speak about this and say like November. So keep your ears out for that. Obviously, things are going to change, but this is a team that's putting a plan in place. And I don't think that they make this plan where they trade a draft pick and an asset like that if this isn't a plan for Burrow's return. So they're thinking that Joe Flacco can hold it down. He was out there today and wearing rocking the number 16. But going back, because I know you were the first person that I called them when this happened, what was your reaction to the Joe Flacco trade? Because I know we both were on the bandwagon of, hey, we need to get a new signal caller in here.
Yeah, I initially I simply tweeted out, I was like, I'll take it. Like it's something. And I think that's the thing. I don't know if it's just some people just don't want to be happy, but I think everything that y'all wanted the Bengals to do like this all season, I think they did, and including just now. Like everybody wanted them to get Rising, they got Rising. Everybody wanted them to get Fant, they got Fant. Everybody wanted them to go, get whatever. Oh, sign Jamar T. They did all those things, and then Browning. They couldn't just bail on Browning like it was a video game. Part of me feels like, damn, I wish Browning would have won one of those games. But as it was playing out, Browning just was ass. And even if he could have figured out how to win one, I think we would have been stuck with him. Flacco, to me, is the person that could learn the fastest and get out there and go and cook up the fastest. And when you look at his numbers of him throwing the ball down the field and watching the Browning game, him throwing to the outsides, and then when you go watch him play with Cleveland, what was the thing that stood out to me the most, or you the most, is probably Harold Fanning, him throwing the ball over the middle. It wasn't really, and I thought to myself, I was like, that's the one thing that Browning really wasn't doing. He wasn't throwing over the middle. Like, go back and watch his tape. Another thing, too, I read a comment, somebody said, man, Flacco behind this offensive line. One thing that I think that got Browning canned is when you go back and watch it, it wasn't how bad he was overall, because I think his arm strength was always his arm strength. The one thing that stood out to me where I knew it was the last straw is the pockets on a lot of them dropbacks look good, like NFL pockets, and he was making bad decisions out of them. So like this notion, and I don't know if people have like been looking at like the pass blocking grades recently, the offensive line is starting to perform a lot better. But any team with a bad running game, it's just not going to look good. But their offensive line currently right now, as it stands on PFF, and I said this to you, Ace, is that they're almost middle of the pack. So like this notion that this offensive line is like so terrible, y'all need to go like watch around the NFL and see how it looks. I think that Joe Flacco is in a better situation in terms of weapons, but I will argue that I think the Bengals offensive line has been protecting better. Like I would take Amarius Mims and Orlando Brown over what he had in Cleveland. I would. And I don't think that's a hot take. And I don't know that our offensive line is great, but I do know that Joe Flacco still has a stronger arm than Jake Browning. He's better than what we had. And it's just something to say, this is a chance that we're going to take. And we didn't just sit on our hands and do nothing, because I know a lot of Bengals fans feel this way, is that, man, we don't got it and da-da-da. These other teams, they looking at you like, bro, you got a healthy Chase Brown, a healthy Noah Fant, a healthy Mike Gesicki, healthy Jamar Chase, a healthy T. Higgins. Like, those are weapons. The league is based off of weapons, scoring, offense, all of those things, the glamorous part, not the trenches that, we know football is one of the trenches, but to have that level of weaponry and just be willing to punt on a season, it blows my mind. And I think when you weren't on the show last week, I think that's why I was so frustrated. It's like, how could you watch all of that and then watch all these teams wish that they had that? I heard somebody the other day was like, yeah, we should send Yoshi for, like, I'm like, what?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yoshi for what? And the fact that we only got, we lose like 30, 40 picks in a draft and a pick swap, you damn near got a quarterback for free, because the same person that's saying that the Bengals front office is ass, think about it. We don't really draft 6, 7 round guys that good outside of like Yoshi to begin with, right? So F that pick. And it ain't like it's gone. Like I still
It's not like the Bengals have been great at drafting.
So I mean, for a team, I don't see any scenario. The Bengals were dead in the water. Like they had to do something, and I think them walking away with this with a pick swap is very low risk. I don't get it, bro. Like I'm just looking at like the weapons and what they got and what you felt like coming into the season. I still believe that that's still in place. Whether they succeed or not, that's still in place. And to be able to say, I'm going to punt on that, forget Noah Fant. Forget all these guys that are going to be gone. We got next season. Let me tell y'all about life. What if somebody like a Jamar or something goes down or doesn't do something the following year? Now you're willing to bet and waste 2 seasons? Like you don't know what's going to happen. So it's always carpe diem. So right now the Bengals are seizing the moment and they're going into a wide open AFC and they're putting their big boy pants on and say, let's go try this. And if it don't work, we're going to die trying.
Yeah, just think about it, man. I mean, the Bengals through these disasters are still second place in the AFC North. They're still 8th in the AFC. So, this isn't a situation where you're looking at it like you're Baltimore and you're 1-4, looking at staring down 1-5 in the face. That's a completely different kind of situation, right? When it comes down to it. But yeah, I saw the stuff too, bro. People talking about let's get what we can for Trey Hendrickson and all of it. Like that stuff doesn't really work. If you want to be a team like the Miami Dolphins, if you want to be a team like the Cleveland Browns, you want to do that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm not going to tell fans how to fan, but I don't think that that's a route to success, especially with what they have right now. I think right now, getting Joe Burrow back and getting your team into a kind of run where Joe Burrow could be back for the playoffs, I would be down with. And I mean, honestly, bro, like we've waited so long for this season to get here. Are we really ready to punt on the season? Are we really ready to be looking at April? Like I'm not ready to be doing that. I don't know what anybody else is ready to be doing, but I'm not ready for that.
Let me ask you this. Do you know what pick the Chiefs had this past season?
Absolutely not.
They had the 31st pick. Do you know what they got with the 31st pick?
They got Simmons, the tackle.
So, like this concept that people think that you will have 53 people that will say, let's just skip out on this season and let's come back. Like this ain't Madden. Like forget all your contracts and everything you're trying to achieve. Forget that. Let's get a higher pick. But the Chiefs, and that's just one instance. Like that's just living proof of like you could do all you want, or you could come back and cook up and go draft, a prospect that ends up being better and he's looking like the best tackle in the whole entire draft. He's looking really good. He's looking like they got a bookend tackle and they got him at pick number 31. You should never take for anything outside of a quarterback is my belief.
And the thing with the late pick for Joe Flacco, like, what are you guys scared of losing another Tanner McLaughlin? I'm sorry. Like, I think we're good when it comes down to that. The other thing about Flacco though that definitely makes this make sense is he's also already played the Packers. So he's had a week of preparation for the Packers, film review. He knows what they're doing. Those are things that he can talk to Zach about. And obviously he gets a second crack at it as well. And then you talk about right after that, he's being able to play the Steelers, a team that he's very familiar with. So, like, for me, man, it makes a lot of sense. At first, I was kind of like, man, why didn't we get Jameis? But when you think about the leadership, you think about the veteran, you think about being able to pick up this system that quickly. I don't know if a Jameis would be able to do that. I don't know if a Russell Wilson would be able to do that. I don't know if they'd be able to, we'd be able to send a car to New York to bring Jameis here in time for him to be able to learn the offense. So I get why they did what they did. Now it's ready to see. I'm ready to see what they can do. And obviously this actually gives them a chance to win games. I think we kind of got to a point where we were watching these games just knowing like, yeah, like Jake Browning is not it, bro. We're not going to win anything. And I think the most frustrating game was that Lions game because the Bengals defense showed up. They gave this team opportunities to be in the game, but Jake Browning gave it right back to him with interceptions, with turnovers, with 3-and-outs, with punts. Like it was a disaster class, and they were able to score 21 points in the fourth quarter, but it was too little too late. And if you have somebody like Flacco there to add the stability, I get what people are saying, the interceptions that Flacco has had. You got to remember that those that came against us were ricochets off of receivers' hands. He's got some of the receivers that that receiving core, I believe, is leading the NFL in drop percentage. So those are things that you gotta. I'm not trying to shoot him some bail, but we all know when it comes to a receiver, a ball going off a receiver's hands, you really can't count that as a turnover worthy play. However, he is going to have to cut those down. And I'm pretty sure that Zach and company are going to say that to him. But I think you just can actually run your offense. He can actually read what the defense is doing. Where Jake Browning, it was clear that he could just not do that as it stood right then and there. So with that being said, was there anything that you wanted to say more about it? Because I kind of wanted to get into the Cleveland side of the things with them making that trade and what that kind of does for their team.
No, I did want to say this. Yeah, I'm sorry. I did want to say. I also have a little bit, and I told you this on the phone too. I do have a little bit of pause because I know that things that are with Zach Taylor's scheme that aren't going to change. I still want a new head coach. You know what I mean? So the run game being non-existent, I think, as you pointed out, Joe Flacco is more equipped for dropping back 40 plus times. Right. I thought that this season with the Browns, he looked a little bit more uneasy at times, though, I will say, than the Joe Flacco of the past. So I do have a little bit of pause. He wasn't really good at all in that Packers game that they played. The Browns defense carried that game. So I don't want to take that context away from Joe Flacco beating the Packers and all that stuff like that. I also just think that my expectations level isn't really that high, but the reason why is my perspective on the AFC is just not that good. And I looked at the next 5 games from the Bengals, and I think 3-2 looks very manageable when you look at the opponents that they're play. A Jets team that hasn't won. I think I'm not a big believer in the Steelers. I don't think offensively that they're looking really good. You're talking about a Bengals team that just got 4 sacks on Jared Goff, who has a far better offensive line than the Steelers. And they did that with Shamar Stewart. I think that the other aspect of the team, like things that I'm pointing out, like the offensive line looking a little bit better pockets for Browning, and then the defense looking much better. I also have some clips on Demetrius Knight, so I'm going to put on Twitter. I was like watching earlier today. He's been flying around. Miles Murphy. There are guys that now are starting to look a little bit more comfortable, and I'm a little bit more confident in that. I don't really feel I don't want anyone to get it twisted. I'm not saying that Joe Flacco is like the savior of this. I think that football is a team sport, and the elements, a guy that I thought I was nervous coming into the season was Evan McPherson. Evan McPherson looks good, right? So all of these different things are kind of coming together where I feel like I don't think they're going to go undefeated. I just think that some of the things that we wanted to see prior to the season, I think a lot of people are skipping right past. Like Evan McPherson was a real conversation before the season started. The defense was a real conversation before the season started. And the guard was a real conversation. Fairchild's looked pretty good. He's coming off his worst game. You're getting Lucas Patrick is now coming back. So now you have added depth. Rivers looked better in the run game last week too. So there's different things that are kind of giving me more encouraging signs. And if you could give Joe Flacco in a situation where he's doing what he does best, why not? Let's get it.
Yeah, and I think the other part of this is why would they trade Joe Flacco, right? Like some people were like, do they know something about Flacco that we don't? Why would they trade him and try to help the Bengals? Those were kind of some conversations that we kind of talked about. And, you know, this also opens the door for Shedeur Sanders to step into that backup role. So I think for Cleveland, for me, they didn't really need Joe Flacco on that team, being that they had the 2 young quarterbacks. They got to figure out what they have there. And having Joe Flacco there in a situation where you've got to figure out the future, like he's not a permanent solution at the quarterback position. That's why it worked so well for Cincinnati. But for Cleveland, it's a situation where they just played Dylan Gabriel. He had a solid game. Now they have Shedeur as well. And to me, it's funny because if they don't make Shedeur the second quarterback, that's going to be a whole big thing once again. And I think that it's just going to add a whole bunch of drama. So while they're sitting here saying, LOL, Bengals, you traded for Joe Flacco, we're sitting there saying, LOL, you know, Brownies, the Shedurians are about to be on you because you thinking that let Dylan Gabriel have one of those games like Jake Browning. You're going to have the Dion Hive and the Shedurians right after you telling you that he needs to be in there. And honestly, I was saying this to you earlier, like you're a franchise, like because some people that I've talked to over there have been like, oh, he's not touching the Cleveland Browns. He's not worthy. He's got to do this stuff, right? Like you are a franchise that had Johnny Manziel as your quarterback, Charlie Fry. Like you got a whole roster full of different quarterbacks there. So Shador should get a chance. Like they are rivals and stuff like that, but I don't understand why they haven't played Shador and why they wouldn't think about playing Shador, because that's just crazy because this is the Cleveland Browns. But I think they are going to have somewhat of a clown show with this situation now, because now that you take that buffer of Joe Flacco away, where it's like, okay, it makes sense that Joe Flacco could be the backup. He's a veteran. He's this and that. You might be able to get away with it, even though people were still looking at it. Now, if you're talking about Zappy is the backup, that's going to be a big problem, I think, for Cleveland. What are your thoughts on the Shador situation?
The other person you're not mentioning is Deshaun Watson. That's the one.
Watson is there. D4.
Watson is still there, and so
does he have stock in the Browns by this point?
He got their pocketbook. he got a armed and dangerous handgun up to the owner with the checkbook and saying, yeah, like I got all that money up off you, and I'm dancing on yachts, I'm dancing at parties, and I'm gonna make you look stupid for the rest of your life. Like, and I think that looms over them no matter what they tell you. The overall thing that I think that just sticks out to me so much is like this unnecessary need that they do for drama. Like if you're the Browns, like I just want to play this. Like I told other Browns fans this. You could call it petty or whatever. If I'm not sending nothing in division at all to any of them, I don't care if it was the Steelers, the Ravens, any of them. I ain't sending you a placeholder. I'm not sending you a punter, let alone a quarterback when the Bengals were dead, drowning. And like, what are they thinking? Like, even if Joe Flacco wins one game, that's stupid. Like, let's say Joe Flacco doesn't do anything, but he wins like 1 or 2 games. And then, you know what I'm saying? Then with the Burrow conversation, like, you helped us. And all you did was swap. Like, to me, I think it's stupid. I think it's so risky. Like, why would you risk that for just to get up 30 odd picks or something, right? Like, you 30 to 50 picks or something like that. Like, you still gave up your pick. It ain't like I just gave it to you outright. So that's stupid. I think that's very dumb. And I think that they're going to see that coming up, because if they see Joe Flacco throwing bombs to T. Higgins, like, bro, like what? Why would you do that? So I'm like, so they must just want drama. Then you got the Watson thing that still looms, that I think everybody's just dismissing is a real thing. The Browns come out, make a statement today, and they say, well, Shador number 2, the coach says, we'll see about that. So let me take you to John Rawls' world. One way to kill a kid's confidence or cook them, and then think about online right now. You got guys like OBJ that's saying, like, man, I got sent to Cleveland to die. Like, you think that somebody like Shador doesn't see that online, like seeing Johnny Manziel and all these people, Braylon Edwards and all these people talking all this trash about their experience with the Browns. Meanwhile, he's living in it. So now you got this kid building up resentment to it. Then the icing on the cake for all of this is now you created a civil war on your own team between Dylan Gabriel versus Shador, right? Like, it's a Caitlin Clark 2.0. So now it doesn't even matter is Shador good or not. You have like this crazy war going on between your own fans that are pinning each other against each other. So if Dylan comes out there and looks trash, you're going to have one fan base saying, well, give him some time. The other people will say, get his ass off the field. Then if Shador comes out there, the Shadorians are going to be like, well, that's because he just hasn't had enough reps. And, you know, it's just a never-ending saga with those guys, and they don't make it easy on themselves. All they had to do, I would have never even played Flacco at the beginning of this. All they had to do, and think about all the reps that they gave Flacco and Kenny Pickett. Those are all reps that Shador and Dylan could have had in the preseason. I mean, in the all season. So you gave up over 300 first team reps to those guys that aren't even on your team. All they had to do was play the young guys early and live with the consequences. But because so many people get so caught up in like right now on a lot of different scenarios, like they couldn't see it. The worst case scenario is you could have been like, with the Vikings. You could have put him out there like JJ McCarthy. JJ McCarthy. And if it doesn't work out, then you put in Flacco and then come back and say, okay, JJ, when you're ready, then, I'll bring you. You know what I mean? So now you cut down the sample size on both of your quarterbacks because, guess what? No matter what you do, you're going to go the rest of the season and say, well, I don't have a big enough sample size. So then when you go to the draft, what do you think you're going to be like? You don't even know, do you even need a quarterback? They are a mess, bro. Like, I mean, like, it doesn't take rocket science to figure this all out. Like, maybe that's just I watched football for too long, but that's what happens when you don't play a guy. Like, you just drafted two quarterbacks, you didn't play him. So remember, Kenny Pickett did the same thing, and he got injured at the end of the season. So they went into the following season. They didn't know what to do. So then they had to go and pivot and go get Russell Wilson and do all that other stuff. But they're stupid. All they had to do is just play the young dudes, see the sample size. Then you could justify to your whole fan base, hey, look, Shador is the guy. He's not the guy. Dylan is the guy. He's not the guy. This is what our plan is. We're going to go to draft. They don't even know what they're doing. Only thing they're doing is getting ready for that new stadium because they soft and they in the dome. And that's it.
Got some super chats here. One from Fuzzy says, just glad to have a quarterback with a legit arm. Jake from State Farm couldn't keep defenses honest. Deep completion will open up the running and screen game. I agree with that. Jake just couldn't. He didn't have the arm to be able to do anything to defenses from that standpoint. And he said these will be the best weapons Flacco has ever had. I said that to you. I was like, I think Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are the best receivers that Joe Flacco has ever played with in his career whatsoever. Both of them.
If Flacco had one of them. If Flacco had that when he was like in his prime, he would have been the most dangerous quarterback that, like, because he has had Anquan Bolden and all them dudes like that at one point, but like he ain't never had nothing like this.
How do you feel about him being a statue though? Like, he can't really move out of the pocket. Is he gonna be somebody that's gonna be able to make the decisions pretty fast? Because that is something to talk about.
I'm more interested in pocket manipulation. So I know that the new age quarterback is more mobile. You made a good point earlier in me today. You're like, man, maybe we should have, about Anthony Richardson or even Shador. Even Shador. Like, to me, I would have liked that. If I'm being honest, I would have liked that. I don't know about Shador on this because I don't want that.
Yeah, Shador doesn't really run like that.
I don't want that drama.
Yeah,
he can move a little bit. He can move more than Flacco, and he's younger. So whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that Flacco does something that Jameis Winston does really well. This is why I wanted Jameis. Jameis knows how to use his shoulders in the pocket. So a lot of times you'll see him step up and a guy's right there grabbing behind him, but he knows how to manipulate the pocket and move around. Burrow's really good at it too, and Burrow knows how to run horizontally and get out of different things like that too. Flacco is more of a statue, and that's what gives me a little bit more pause. But Flacco is a veteran that knows how to move around and get to a spot. I think if Flacco starts to get hit, though, you are going to start to see a bunch of ghosts. Naturally, he's older. His instincts and everything aren't the same. So I look at both sides of it. Like, to me, I think it's just a low risk. And I think the upside of what he could do, the spark that he could do for making the simple plays that Browning didn't do, I think is worth a try. And I don't know, statue, yeah, he's 40 years old. So, yeah, to a certain extent, sure. But he's still got a big-ass arm.
Yeah, he's a statue with a big-ass arm. So, you could be a statue, but if you can get the ball to Jamar Chase, good luck, especially with that arm, the cannon that he still got there. Just wanted to actually get into the game. Now that we actually have a quarterback, Zim, we can actually talk ball and X's and O's again. Remember last week it was just like, yeah, Lions are packing us up because of Jake Browning. Now we can actually get into this. So before we get out of here, I just wanted to get into the X's and O's in this game. Now, a lot of people forget the Packers are 2-1-1. It just a few weeks ago, a lot of people were talking about that they were Super Bowl contenders. The difference that this makes in the league, it's a week-to-week league. You can never take anything for granted. But this is a team now, even though they're favored by I think 13 points in this one, still a team that is not looking like the juggernaut that they once were. This is a team that lost to Joe Flacco on the Browns just a few weeks ago. What are your thoughts coming into this game on what the Bengals offense can do against this defense?
I still worry about the Bengals until they come up with a average run game. I do, because I know in a passing situation, the Packers got guys, bro. Like, it's not just Micah Parsons. And I think that they're above average on the back end as well, too. If you're listening to this on the pod, make sure you guys come on over to YouTube. Ace has like a different graphic showing the different grades, offense and defense on, for the Packers and the Bengals. There are a lot of different numbers that I've been looking at. There are some instances where I thought the Packers offense looked pedestrian, but when you look at the defense or whatever, guys like Hobbs and Nixon on the other side are really, stand up, corners in the NFL. But Parsons on one side and Gary on the other side is a nightmare for a lot of teams. I think that Bengals are going to have to slide protection throughout this game to help out Orlando Brown over there on that Parsons side for sure. We went up against Parsons last year with the Cowboys. They moved them around a lot. So I'm very interested to see how that works out. There aren't really many weaknesses in the Packers defense that I've seen outside of like the slot cornerback position, with Yoshi coming off his best NFL game this season for the 2025 season at least. So there are some different things that I think that they can exploit. I think the Bengals can do some stuff over the middle. I think Flacco's really good at that. Remember when we played them earlier in the season, he was killing us with them crossers. So I think if they can implement some of that stuff, I think that that's the way to go. Get open quick, and get the ball out your hands. Step up. I think Orlando Brown's got to use his size to make sure that Parsons carries outside of the arc, and Flacco's just got to step up and deliver in those spots, and he cannot hold the ball because the Bengals offensive line hasn't improved that much. Like, they're good enough to let you get the ball out of your hands, but I'm being realistic. There aren't many, like even the Lions, you saw one of what is considered a top 3 offensive line in football. I thought the Bengals were kicking ass on them. So, like, even the best offensive line in the world, you have to understand quarterbacks get hit. It's what you do with the reps that you do win. How much can you win in those reps? And when you do win in those reps, how can you go and change what the defense is trying to do? And I think that that's the name of the game. Me and you had looked at a lot of stuff in the last 2 seasons with cover 2. Did you know that the Bengals currently right now, I know we're not on the defensive side, they're currently the highest cover 3 unit in the National Football League at 43% of the time being in cover 3. The reason why I bring that up is because I think that Joe Flacco seeing single high, the league could cover 2 last year. It wasn't a lot of points, but there were a lot of yards. A lot of teams are reluctant to play cover 2 shells as much. The Dallas Cowboys are playing the most cover 2 in the NFL currently right now. But a lot of teams are getting away from the too high safety looks, at least pre-snap. And I'm here to tell you, if Joe Flacco sees single high with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, you can say it's an arm punt, whatever. The ball's going down the field. If it's a 40-yard pick, so be it. Like, if Flacco sees the one-on-one, those are the 2 things that I think cooked Jake Browner. When he had the one-on-one, he wasn't delivering it to a spot where his wide receivers could get to it. And when he had a decent pocket, he wasn't reading and processing fast enough to get the ball out. Key point, the safety that he took and the safety that they didn't even count, ball's got to come out, and he couldn't do it. And I think Joe Flacco, in that same instance, is going to let it rip. And if it's a pick and it's a 40-yard punt / pick, I don't care. I like my chances with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, the best wide receiver duo in the NFL.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, like you said, this is a dangerous defensive line for the Packers, and the Bengals have got to try to protect Joe Flacco as much as possible, and they've got to be able to open lanes in the running game. And I know that that's I'm going to scoff at myself saying that because we haven't seen that from the standpoint of the running game. But if they can protect Joe Flacco and keep him upright against Rashawn Gary, against Micah Parsons, some of these guys that are going to be able to get pressure, they should be okay. They can't turn the ball over. I think offensively, though, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, there is no duo, I think, even at the corner position that can really slow them down. You get those guys involved, you get some of the other guys involved in the middle of the field. I know you talked about that when you talk about Gesicki, Noah Fant, Yoshi. Those are going to be guys that can get involved. But the other people that I'm looking at to get involved as well, and we kind of saw this when Joe Flacco played us against the Bengals, he was able to get that running back dump offs involved. He was able to get Fannin Jr. involved. So those are things that I'm going to expect him to do with Chase Brown and some of the guys that we have over there. So if the Bengals are able to do that offensively, control the tempo, actually cash in when defense gives them opportunities, I think they'll be fine. Defensively, I think they'll be fine as well. I think we've seen Myles Murphy start to come on. I think we've seen Trey Hendrickson be Trey Hendrickson and what he's been. We've also gotten some stuff from Chris Jenkins. We've gotten some really good stuff from TJ Slayton in the run game. So they're going to have to be able to slow down that run game that they have. But, Jordan Love has had up and down games. They're going to need him to have one of those down games that he had similar to Cleveland. And if they can try to take advantage of any kind of turnovers or force him into any kind of turnovers, I think that's where the offense needs to cash in on. And they got to play complementary football. If the Bengals can do that, the Bengals can get out of Lambeau with a win. Even though they're 14-point underdogs, there's a lot of unknowns. Like Joe Flacco is here. This offense, what does it look like with Joe Flacco? That plays into the Bengals' hands and not necessarily the Packers' hands. And don't forget, Joe Flacco just beat them. So, I think that this is a winnable game for the Bengals. And it's very important because if they get this win, and let's just say in a world, somehow the Steelers drop a game to the Browns because that defense is pretty good, and then the Bengals get to play them on that Thursday night football, well, guess what? The Bengals win these two games, they would be back in first place of the North. They'd have the tiebreaker. They'd have all of that. They'd be able to catch back up and do their thing. What's up?
Let me ask you from a strategy standpoint. Don't we want to get the Browns out the way? Just get them out of here.
Do we want
like
to get
Browns versus
Browns, we also
Browns
want the
versus
Browns to
Steelers?
beat the Steelers. We want the Browns to beat the
Do
Steelers.
we?
Yes, we do, because the Steelers have a lead on us in the division. So yeah, I think we definitely want the Browns to beat the Steelers for sure, because the Steelers have been the only team in the North that have been able to win games and benefit from winning games. So everybody loses last week. They're on a bye. That automatically helps them. So no, I want that first place away from them. I don't think that the Browns are going to continue to climb up out of there because they're in a situation like Baltimore where they're at 1-4. So no, I would love to get that win and the Browns end up beating the Steelers.
I think I'm gonna come with a different strategy. I want the Steelers to beat the Browns, even though I think the Browns, hot take, I think the Browns are going to beat the Steelers. I don't believe in the Steelers. But I want to get the Browns out the way, tank mode, and I want the Ravens out the way, tank mode. Why? Because I think we could walk down the Steelers. We have to play them in a couple of weeks with Flacco. I think we could catch them. We can gain a game right there in itself. And then also later in the season, we got to play them again. I think that we have an opportunity to walk them down. If we could get the Browns and the Ravens both at 1-5 and we win our game or something like, you know what I mean? I just want to get them all the way out the way. I really do. Like, that's just my little strategy.
No, that's good. But yeah, I think if the Bengals can do that, that's how they get out of there with a victory. Was there anything else that you wanted to say about the Bengals and Packers game?
No, I think we covered everything. I mean, for the most part, like I think Zach is still I'm gonna pump the brakes a little bit. Zach is still the head coach. I still don't believe in all of the different things. I think that Flacco is a vet and he'll be able to make some adjustments on the fly that you really just can't coach. But the run game is still the run game until I see other things. It's hard for me to get behind a team that doesn't have any bit of that has the worst run game I've ever seen in my life. That's asking a lot of Joe Flacco, and it's asking a lot on your defense. When the Bengals start to get a little bit, just give me 80 yards on the ground, 80 to 90 yards on the ground, something like that. then I'll have full faith that they could hold this thing down before Burrow comes back. Because I do believe Burrow does have a chance to come back. And if you go look at the next 5 games, I do think the Bengals realistically can go 3-2 in that stretch. Super chat from KP from KC. I don't know. Did you read this already?
No, I didn't.
He says Jake, a.k.a. Officer Hoyt from Training Day. So if you all remember that movie, good reference from there. That's all I got. I know we need to holler at Midwest. That was all I had, though.
Yes, sir. Let's toss it to our good folks over at Midwest Best Barbecue.
Now they call T. Higgins, or you say number 5s. Either way, you'll be winning. It's them hot honey lemon peppers. Now they call T. Higgins, or you say number 5s. Either way, you'll be winning. It's them hot honey lemon peppers. Now they call T. Higgins, or you say number 5s. Either way, you'll be winning. And much love to Mama T. Uno and CTB. MB's got Bengals wings, and now we just added T's. Cause 9 to 5 winning things. Gritty for Uno wings. We say yes, Sirski now. Like Aces and be saying that T got them new wings. Only at MB's. Hot honey lemon peppers. Now you can call them T's. Hot honey lemon peppers. Now they call T. Higgins. Or you say number 5s. Either way, you'll be winning. It's them hot honey lemon peppers. Now they call T. Higgins. Or you say number 5.
That was nice. I ain't gonna lie.
Shout out to Midwest Best Barbecue 669 Justice Court in Loveland, Ohio. Make sure you stop in there and let them know Ace and Zim sent you. Appreciate you guys for tapping in with the Wincinnati podcast. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, do all of that good stuff. We appreciate y'all. We love hearing from you guys in the comments. So we love hearing what you guys' thoughts are. So definitely be sure to do that. We will catch you guys later. We might do a post game. We'll have to see how things go. And if you haven't, definitely be sure to check out Jake and Mon, who also, by the way, called Joe Flacco to the Bengals on one of their pods. So make sure you check them out. But thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Wincinnati podcast.
Coming up
On the Wincinnati podcast.
Hello world, Wincinnati. You guys are the Yoshi creators, bro.
It's the new beginning. You know what that means, right?
But I know this, the whole NFL is scared of the Bengals.